Hello, and welcome to the 10th podcast of Magus Talk, which is really a podcast or discussion about what we might call the application of Solomonic magic, of summoning jinn as a method of esoteric cultivation, a method of alchemy. So join us for another talk, and this time our talks are going to be about an hour, and we're going to hold them down, and we're going to have about either a 40-60 or a 50-50 participation ratio between Jay and myself. So I just wanted to add this little intro because the podcast itself just dives right in. So join us at this bad time and this bad station for podcast number 10. Here goes. I do have, even on the YouTube stuff, I'm actually offering a certain meditation teaching, but it's not stated that way. It's presented like through the material. It places references, like it takes certain ethics, not stealing, not lying and things like that, which are like, no, that's not what they mean. These are basically, you got to lift up your biases, you got to reverse your dogmatism, but if you perceive something, then you have to affirm that it's real, if you really, really perceive it. But you got to make sure you're not conjecturing it, you're not making it up. Sometimes it seems like you're making it up when it's really an intuitive revelation. See, people don't know the difference. If you know the difference.
That's not an easy thing to pick up on, man. I mean, it's always like, is this real? Is this not real?
Exactly.
No. Yeah.
And I think these days it's a commodity to be able to have that discernment. Even back in my Ron Van Dyke days, when I was posting on Facebook, it was always like, well, how do you attain discernment? How do you know? How do you whatever, And it's like, well, it's not going to be the same way you know everything else. It's a different kind of knowing. Mm-hmm. So unless you learn to repress just set aside your conventional way of knowing and shift it over a little bit, you don't have to lose your reason or your mind or your common sense. You just shift it over a little bit in order to open up to something more intuitive, more, encompassing, and learn to trust it. And as you do that, your rational side, your analytical side is going to go and not censor the other side, but measure it, because it has perspectives and it takes a step back and it takes a step forward and it looks at it from every angle. And you have this big holistic thing that you know is real, but you don't know why. If we can't justify it, we throw it out, even though it can still be real.
Yeah, and that's just, I don't even get into conversations like that. So, there's always, well, prove it. It's like, fuck off. I can't. Yeah. No, I'm not going to. I just, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what's been going on, man.
Okay, go for it.
Now, again, discernment. Maybe the genies had something to do with last night, or maybe it's just that I'm that good, okay? Or maybe it's just that our band is that good, which really that's the.
I was gonna say, is that what you tell your girlfriends, but then you said our band, and I was like, ooh, he's really into something
there. we had an awesome show last night. It was great. Okay. We made over $200 in tips, well over 200, and $200 from the bar. We walked out with a lot of money, and it was a huge party. And then people left, more people came, another huge party started. It was our last show in Colorado. It was just really awesome.
This was just music, playing music, or doing the comedy routine?
Playing music.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no comedy in Colorado. I'm not going to do comedy until I'm not doing comedy until I'm in Texas. It's and that'll be open mic. I won't be making any money, and that if I do make money, then I'll be making a lot. But anyway, so like it could be just that our music is just really good, and it is really good. So that could have had that was probably it. I didn't feel a genie presence there, but then again, Maybe they're always there. I don't know.
Well,
But
you remember Phoenix?
yes.
The genie Phoenix that's supposed to love musicians and music to your ears and basically for poetry and the arts. So if you're
Okay,
artistically
then
inclined,
Finnick showed up.
and he doesn't talk, he just, unless it's poetic or something like that, he sings. So, it makes you hear music and so enchanting that you can even lose yourself, it says. So if he brings that vibe, it doesn't get into the enchanting zone. It'll make your music become automatically that way because it's tuned into
Okay.
those centers. So
Way to
there is
go, Phoenix.
precedence. Yeah, yeah. So, and he's the guy in the West. So the one
And
that has Kundalini
right,
connection.
he's the guy in the West, and then Halphus. In I think it was last week that I did have visions of those guys, so I've got that axis going on, which is pretty solid. And then, okay, so you remember the vision of the white cat, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I do the all of the magic rituals happen.
Let's repeat a little bit. The white cat, I remember it, but for the sake of anybody listening, the white cat basically was big and fluffy. It represents the spirit, the fire element, and it's pure because it's white. And it was nice as opposed to the previous thing where you had your cats were malnourished and
Fleas
scrawny
all
and
over
fleas all
them.
over them
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Okay, so
And the cat came from Ball because there's a cat and a frog and a human in that vision.
mhm.
So you guys are just going to have to go back and listen to the previous podcast. You may just want to listen to them in order. Uh,
Yeah,
so
that's
anyway,
right.
at the beginning of this week, I'm doing everything that we talked about. I'm getting all or both axes together to form the cross. And in the process of doing that, I do all of the rituals, which is not actual ritual, but it's just my own thing. But it happens in a circle, and that's not on purpose. It's just that's how I do bagua. You walk in a circle, you do a
Mm,
martial art form. It's just what
yeah, yeah.
happens. So a circle gets formed outside. I trample down the grass, everything. So it's like a perfect circle because I've been walking on this thing for like what 4 or 5 months now.
Okay.
So anyway, um, I have a dream of that circle and a white bear, not a polar bear, but a white bear, like a white black bear. And I've seen
Ah,
black
a
bear before.
white black bear. Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, I get
Yeah,
it.
you get a lot of black bear up here in Colorado, and
Yeah.
they're the goofiest animals in the world. Yes, they're dangerous. Yeah, you got to respect them. But anyway, this dream was of a white bear walking across my magic circle, really
Yeah, yeah.
real, uh, very lucid, and I was like, holy shit! I'm not going to move. I'm just going to look at this guy. It's beautiful. And then bang, I woke up. All right. So that's a sign. Probably pretty obvious. Then nothing happened that I really noticed for a couple of days. Now, there was something else that happened. I'm going to remember it later, but I'm going to go to a dream that I had tonight. Now, remember, last night was the show. The dream I had tonight was I was in a like a train station, kind of looked like Poland, actually, not Poland, but Krakow,
Yeah, yeah.
the town that's it's kind of close to Warsaw.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything's close in Poland.
I've been there. I've
But
been there.
anyway, I was there. You been to Krakow?
Hmm.
Beautiful
I
city, huh?
I was in a place called Poznan, also
Okay.
close to Poland, but it's Krakow is like in the south. It's by the Czech or Slovakian border, I guess, and this
Yeah,
was a little
yeah, yeah.
further up. So big trees, I don't know, crazy, very wild landscape, really cool
Love the
energies.
place.
Yeah, yeah.
I love the people, the culture.
The
Anyway,
people were really
uh,
cool. Okay.
they are cool. Um, so anyway, I'm in this train station, and these girls come up, and I'm like walking around, and I'm not paying attention to them, and there's four of them, or maybe five, and one just kind of grabs me by the arm this way to kind of walk with me, how like a guy and a girl sometimes walk. And, she walks with me, and she's got these 4 other girls with her. And then I'm looking at her, and she's like, I know, what the hell? Why is this happening? And I don't know. It's a dream. So whatever. And so anyway, we walk around and everything feels good. And then I take a good look at the girls, and I'm like, wow, these are really young girls. And then in my dream, I'm getting all self-conscious and paranoid. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is the wrong thing. I shouldn't be with young girls like this. This is just weird. And I'm like, how old are you guys? Go ahead.
How do you look like in your dream? Did you
How
see
do I
your
look
face?
like?
I mean, are you yourself in your dream, or are you a 20 something version of yourself, So you could easily, all of a sudden, well, I'm their age. It's a dream, but you're thinking of yourself
I could have been younger, but these girls were
like
they were
high
still too
schoolers
young
or
for
something.
me. And so and I'm like, how old are you? And
This
they're
is
like,
a dream, folks. Remember.
yeah, this is a dream. I'm like, how old are you? And they're like, you don't want to know how old I am. And then they ran away at the same time I ran away. And then, but when I was running away, it was almost like the people around me were just about ready to applaud, going, yay, you're a good person for not having sex with, or some kind of shit like that. I don't know, but I just wanted to get out. That's what I want to do. It's just like, and so as I was running away, and I'm running away from authorities, cops, whatever, not, just insert something to run away from, and insert an authority to run away from. And then I run far enough to get comfortable, and then I see a flight of stairs. And up the flight of stairs is kind of a restaurant. And so I'm running up these stairs like Jackie Chan, having fun on these stairs. You know how dreams can kind of turn into like something like that. And so here I am doing all these stunts, and I'm up and down these stairs having a ball. And then I grab onto this bamboo lacquered piece of art that at the top was like a brown lacquered, the whole thing was brown, lacquered palm leaf type thing at the top. And I like kind of use it as a makeshift pole vault to like ride down the stairs. And then I jump back and I ride up, and then I fall a little bit, but I look really cool. And then I broke the thing. Then when I broke the thing, a waiter came up to me, and I knew I was in trouble. Huh?
On the staircase?
Yeah, on the staircase.
Maybe I need to get closer here. Yeah, okay.
A waiter, I always do that, Ari. I think basically, I don't think it's your audio. I think it's my selective hearing.
Okay.
I have a hearing problem, but it's always selective. When I'm too into what I'm doing, I don't hear other things.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is a Japanese guy. It turns out to be a Japanese restaurant. We start speaking Japanese, but we're not in Japan. We're like in a little Tokyo in a different city. And then he says, look, you broke our thing. And he implied that I was in trouble. Very Japanese, like implied that he's going to call the Japanese police, and implied that I need to wait there. And I'm like, shit. And then I woke up. So that's all I got, amigo, unless I remember something else. Okay, that's it.
All right, let's go into dream interpretation mode. This one is, let's cut it down, maybe down to size. So the first part of the dream was you were doing the circle, and the white bear walked right through it. And bears represent Earth Force. And they don't just represent Earth Force, they represent the Big Dipper. I was, interestingly, writing an article for my Substack thing, and it's about the Gnostic demiurge, the creator god of Gnosticism, which is called Yaldabaoth. And if you take the Hebrew word, it actually means child of the sign of the bear, something like that. The child of the sign of the bear. So it essentially means that this thing is a product or an offspring of the sign of the bear, where Yah, let's put it this way, the first letter is a contraction of Jehovah, Yah. And Ya basically is in the sign of the bear. That's what the name means. And that means God is in the Big Dipper, which means God is in the crown because the Big Dipper is the constellation that goes around the Earth's northern axis, which people in the northern hemisphere identify macrocosmically with the crown. Your axis goes up. If you look south, that's why one of the reasons if you look south and your head is tilted a certain way, it will align with the pole star. And when it does that, there's a certain meditation that Taoists do that absorbs the energy of the pole star into the crown, into the peak, the back crown there. So the Big Dipper, this is a symbolism that the genies themselves may be conveying, because the genies themselves there is one that's like Person. Have you been working on the Person at all?
That's what I wanted to say. Shit. Okay. So Person is on the south axis. So I'm going with the north axis first. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had some visions of, and these were obvious visions of a black horse. And it was kind of funny. Me and Oribus have like a good relationship. I mean, we you know the stories. So it turned out it was first a majestic black horse, and then it turned into one of my familiars, the hooded things. Yeah. But it was kind of comical, and he turned himself in, what are those half man, half horse things? Centaurs, I think? Centaurs. Yeah, so he turned in kind of a centaur, a comical centaur, and then he turned into my familiar. And then a camel kind of showed up too. The camel was a little fuzzy and a little comical. There was some comedy there. So I don't know if they're like, we're not taking you serious, or we're like here to party and we're having some fun. I'm not really sure.
Look at it this way. This is what it tells me. Look at it this way. If you have Oribus is the day jinn, right? He's the white jinn, the day one. So he comes first. And then the night jinn, which is the power, is grimoire.
Grimoire, the camel.
Yeah. It's actually a duke riding a camel. But anyways, what it is essentially, you also posed the question before, and Oribus, being on your side and wanting to help, is trying to answer it. It's like, how do I combine these two together? How does one jinn influence the other? And it's like, well, grimoire is pretty serious on his own, very feminine type, whatever. But Oribus,
it's a lady riding a camel. I think it was a lady dude.
Actually, it's like a lady dude and a feminine, because these guys, it's supposed to be a lady because the symbol on the seal is a womb. Right. And the cross that's in the womb is a male organ, So it's basically, and the word gamori means sexual intercourse in Greek. So it's basically from the female perspective wanting to have sexual intercourse for purposes of reproduction. That's why it works on young women. You see, the dream with the young women. And or it works on women that are postmenopausal. It kind of has that too. But if you're a mother already, where the womb has been occupied, it doesn't work so well. But if you're pre-birth, before you've had children, or after menopause, it works okay, because there's space for it to work. Usually it's one or the other. But the way it tuned into you is you were absorbing the energy, and it related. It's like, so how do you come up with these interpretations, somebody might ask? Well, these dreams don't pop out of nowhere. They're like, unless you have a context where the symbolism actually makes sense, and here it does, you can correlate it. And you just happen to be doing these specific jinn, which are interpreted that way. And all of these things do not correlate with your normal life. They don't correlate. Yeah, Japanese that's the only thing. But everything else is almost like, no, this is coming from somewhere else. And usually our subconscious is chaotic. But as the listeners may have noticed, we have the jinn expressed through dreams, or they express through insights, or they express through events. They don't create manifestations of miracles. What's interesting, though, is that sometimes you can have visions of them, where these are obvious visions. They're not like because they move a certain way. For example, I'm sitting here, I'm not doing anything, and I see an image of a person, and the person starts talking to me without me doing anything. Usually, if you orchestrate it, you have to will it to happen. You say, okay, open your mouth, do this. It doesn't actually go by itself. In dreams, you have a predetermined storyline that kind of unwinds. So it goes on its own momentum. An impression, and the impression unravels, and it can be this, and it can be that, and it can be the other. Dreaming is a little bit like tripping, where one little thing sets off a whole bunch of assumptions and a whole storyline. But here you have a serial story of you're walking down a street in a civilized place that's urban, an urban setting, and all of a sudden, where Oribus is basically going, look, I protect you from things. He's a moral protector. He protects your spirit. So when the other energy comes in, notice that you felt, see, you're connecting to these young women, but you feel guilty because I'm the one who keeps you from doing bad things. So, but the thing with the staircase was completely different. It was a whole other thing where you still did a bad thing, so to speak, but I think that was more oriented toward the south side. So yeah, Person is the bear, or he's a bear riding a horse or something like that.
Well, the person, the thing that his sigil holds, Person looks like he's holding something. The sigil, it doesn't, doesn't it? That's the one with the pitchfork, right?
Yeah. And I don't know what that is. Yeah, that's the pitchfork on the thing, or the comb, or whatever it is, and it points upward. So it's almost like, and it has four.
That reminds me of thing that I broke in the dream.
Exactly. So the dream is telling you how good your connection to Person is. See, your mind is looking to orchestrate, and this is why I emphasized the fusion alchemy, or working at least with the emblems. What I do is I use the mantras and the breathing and basically make the emblems come alive. It's almost like you have an object or an image in front of you, and you breathe into it and it starts glowing, and it's almost like using the bellows in a forge. Only the emblem itself is actually filling with consciousness and force and all of that. And then this emblem becomes a source of all the other inner work that you do with the elements and the numbers. So as you move on. So here, you're actually learning to coordinate 8 different jinn, while you're still learning to coordinate the jinn pairs in each sector, in each decan. So your dreams are trying to combine all these things. And the jinn aren't saying, what are you doing, man? This is crazy. They're not doing that. If this was like something that you shouldn't be doing, the jinn would be telling you shouldn't be doing it in a way that's much more chaotic than what you got. What you got instead is that, dude, you don't know how to handle the... see, you're letting Oribus take you away from Salos, because you have Zaleos, Salos on the bottom, who's also an erotic, sensual guy, but he's more about seduction, because Zaleos means making you dizzy with lust, making you dizzy with attraction. So you kind of lose your mind. So this is the establishment. The established thing is to create this energy in the south. Like the south is where the sun is peaking, right? So you have to have your sensual energy peaking there, but it's not like going in through the regular channels. It's filling up your airy body, your aerial body, as they said, your astral body. So the aura is being saturated with sensual energy. And this is the sensual energy of charisma, of peace, because he's a duke, he commands, but he's also Venus. So it's always a sensual connection. In the north, what you have is like, yes, you're using the same power of sensuality. See how the actual jinn dynamics are. But this time, it's Oribus who's regulating it, because the north is also the darkest area. It's the winter solstice. It's the earth element. So you don't want to go too far, because then you're going to have excess, shall we say. Because what you're doing is you got to look at the decan. And this is what? It's in Pisces, The north is in Pisces, and I guess it's Neptune in Pisces, and that would mean the angel of the Hierophant. So the Hierophant is the Pope, is the actual outward presentation of an enlightened person. It's not the wisdom, it's not the enlightenment, it's basically the ability to talk to the crowds, to be able to harmonize. So Pisces represents the sea of the collective. It's actually level 3. So it's a representation of level 3. So the age of Pisces is the age of level 3 of the human collective, as we call it. So here you have the highest intelligence of the human collective. It's an initiation into level 3, where Oribus says, don't worry, I'll protect you, And the Big Dipper is white. It's pure. You're fine. But as you're going down the spiral from the crown to the root, from the north to the south, or from one end to the other, you're kind of your astral body can't take it. You're putting too much strain on it. You're not, and that's because the force of Salos isn't in it. You let Oribus, with his karmic routine, pull you away from the fact that, no, you're not supposed to deny the intelligence. You're not supposed to deny the sensual force. You're supposed to accommodate it in a different way. See, this is beyond juggling. This is beyond, coordination and multitasking. It's spiritual multitasking in a sense, or occult multitasking, where the entities themselves are necessary. You can't do this in a kind of mechanical way, like with tones or with rituals, and you need an entity to actually hold the fort for you and tell you to keep modifying until you get it right. So if you can coordinate all 4 energies, they're going to converge, and you're going to have a super dream of the fusion of the 8 jinn. Maybe it's not like a single jinn, but it'll turn into an ignition of the prana, because the jinn are basically here activated with the breath energy, the chi, as we said before. And you got the 4 deckhands are really the 4 directions. So you read all of the rulers of the 4 directions in terms of those deckhands. That's where they come through. Those are like the gates. That's why I call them portals. So the eastern portal has the issue that we said with the Magus of the lovers, your intelligence of relationships. Get that in the east, and you can begin every new endeavor. The west is, what is it? Something with Sagittarius, the son of the star, or something like that. So I don't know. I don't remember that one. But anyways, each of them have a specific portal that represents something. So if it's the son of the star, for example, the star represents your vision, your potential of vision, like the third eye opening up into the cosmos, because you're a sun in yourself. So all the other stars represent the field of possibilities. So it's usually a head and crown opening representation. So the son of the star means you're bringing that divine vision into your watery medium. So Halphus is protecting you. He's not doing a protection like Oribus, who's essentially a moral protector of your spirit, you might say, and your heart. He's protecting your life force. So while Phoenix can do his crazy artistic swirls and flourishes, Halphus actually says, okay, this is where all these negatives might come through and mess you up, and so I'm going to patch this up. And you go, well, what kind of progress can I make when all these guys are taking care of things for me? Well, they're not taking care of things for you. They are you taking care of things for yourself when they become your familiars. They're just firing up the example. So your subconscious is picking up on what they're doing. There's a whole bunch of subconscious communication here. And people are terrified of that because, yeah, you should be. If you don't have a decent pact or agreement with the jinn, and you don't need anything formal, you don't have to give anything up here because you're both doing the evolutionary thing. You're doing the right thing. They're actually doing this super complex orchestration that doesn't tax them because they're all working together intertwined, but they're fascinated by the pattern. And they want humans to embody the pattern because they're fascinated by the outcome, because each time a human turns them into their familiars, then the general intelligence has become the representations of what those familiars represent, even more. So they're not just flying around with all these crazy mythologies, and that's why they go crazy. It's insanity, where they cannot have a focus, a grounded focus. They need human beings to be focused and grounded for them to actually evolve that kind of sensibility. Until then, you're going to have demonic elements. They're not going to be all demons and stuff. But especially if humans are corrupt themselves and come at them with their own selfish ends, it's like, yes, you are my slave because I'm the good guy and God is behind me and you're all evil because I say so, and do what I say because you're evil. Yeah, you sound like any other tyrant, always with some authority, big brother to back you up or something. And at the same time, there are evil, not evil jinn per se, but possessed jinn from evil spirit. So the jinn helped me understand what's going on in the so-called evolutionary frame. But I had to have the foundation of that understanding already in place because they don't have context. They need to know, well, what are you doing? What do you want to know here about what and in what way? And I'm like, well, here's the situation, and here's the kind of paradigm, yin and yang, male and female, Shiva Shakti, alienation, separation from source, all of these things. How do you fit causality and demonization and your damnation and all of that into that equation? And they're like, oh, okay, So over time, my mind oriented to how the situation that I got now. And for me, it answers every question. It's just that you can't just form, there's a few simple premises, but people can misunderstand it because in some ways it can be easily sound too Christian-like. But the reason it does so is also because, well, the civilization is fucking Christian-like. I mean, the whole, people used to, like, especially in the United States and all English-speaking countries, you had all of these devout, church-going people with the Christian mythos. It's part of the culture. But this is esoteric Christianity, and it's a whole other situation. But it has to do with the following, that the demon spirit, is something there? Oh, the demon spirit.
Yeah, I got pretty colors all over what I have, and I'm attracting wasps now. I think, or maybe not. Well, I don't know what it is, but it's buzzing outside my door, and it's going to go away. Sorry.
Okay. Is it a big thing? It might represent something.
I don't even know, but they're gone. They come up every once in a while. A hummingbird at one time actually flew in here because of the colors. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty freaky.
That's really cool. So, as I was saying, you got your 4 directions and you're coordinating them, and your subconscious is doing that. And there is a context that I am aware of that I'm trying to communicate through all of these writings and whatever, slowly but surely. But these jinn are aware of that context, and apparently it's working. It's not like some pie in the sky, because even if it seems to make sense, if it isn't archetypally cohesive, there's no way these spirits can align with it. It would all end up in chaos, or it wouldn't work at all. It would grind to a halt. And that's why before, when I didn't have the context, I had to go in a certain way, focused on one rank at a time to get that into that focus, to be able to just tune into one jinn at a time. And even then, there were back and forths and a lot of purification. This time, the jinn are giving you technical advice. They're not telling you, oh, you fucked up, your karma's fucked up, or you got to deal with these people or those people or family or this and that. That's beyond, you're not dealing with that anymore. You're at level 3 now, whether you know it or not. You're actually immersed in collective level of awareness. You just haven't had a reason to identify it yet. You haven't had a reason to like poke at it or interact with it or anything like that directly. But slowly but surely, the jinn are actually keeping you under the radar. That's why for me, I'm doing all these other things and exposed. It's almost redundant for me to use the system. What I was doing yesterday, for example, was going directly to Belith, Asmodee, Paimon, and it was the other guy, Belial, the kings of the quarters that correspond to the rulers. And just look, and all of these guys are in the 8th decan. The tarot card is the number 8. So it's the 8 of wands, 8 of swords, etc. And the number 8 corresponds to the west. And the west is where Eden is, it's where Valhalla is, and it's where the underworld basically enters. It was always considered to be in the west, where the sun sets. So these guys are the underworld representatives of the quarters. They correspond to the knights in tarot cards. So they are jinn. And notice Paimon is actually right next to Furcas. Furcas is the energy that powers Paimon. And both Paimon and Belith, east and west, are white jinn. They're actually a day jinn. Belial and Asmodee are black jinn from the north and the south. So that also tells you something, that the very characteristic of the north and south tends toward the power aspect. Whereas you might say, no, but shouldn't the east and west be the power aspect? Because that's where the sun goes and the earth rotates and all of that. Yeah, but if you put more power into that, then you're going to, it's all going to derail. And it's going to snap. And if the axis of rotation was actually something you needed to establish, then it wouldn't be set and it wouldn't be an axis. It would be too flimsy. So essentially, there's wisdom in this, in other words, that the established parts are east and west. That's where events occur. That's what you do. You do anything through motion. You do anything as the future becomes the past in time. East and west represent the passage of time. North and south represent basically your axis where you can be aware of space. And so when space rotates, it creates time, or when space moves. So in that sense, the powers of the east and west axis are powers of Daejin establishment, because you can use the flow of the energy of east and west as the source of strength. In the north and south, you have a certain power. Well, you provide the identity of yourself in the north and south. Because in that case, when you're facing east and west, when it's terra firma, when it's on the ground, the north and south isn't your axis. It's basically what goes on between your right and your left hands, which is space. It's where you move around. Where the front and the back is where you're going, where you're coming from. It has those connotations. And when you're going and where you're coming from is where you want to establish things. But your stable base of operations and your pivoting point and moving around and stuff like that, you already have that strength. What you need that you give yourself, your establishment is your identity. It's your sense of presence. So you need presence in space, and presence in space will be able to handle Asmodee and Belial. You'll see as you get to them, because you're going to go through all of these guys. And Asmodee, and Asmodee and Belial, and even after them, once you get each of the quarters, then if you really want to use the whole circle, for example, you don't need to, the jinn can be represented not by Furcas as before, but by the 4 jinn kings, because they're in the middle and they're in the underworld, and the underworld is the water element, which means the medium. So the whole medium of creation is like, yeah, they'll listen, they'll do, and they'll access all the other ones to do what needs to be done. If you need specifics, you can tune into one. But with this system, it goes beyond that. Anything that you can do with astrology, you can do with the system and turn it into jinn. So if you, for example, you can translate the jinn circle onto your astrology chart. You can take it out of the context of the secret seal. I was trying to do that before. You can do that. And you can say, where's my sun sign? Over there. Okay, it corresponds to this jinn, because the east is your ascendant. So it's easy to align. And go, where's my moon sign? Okay, so if the jinn are your familiars now, they're going to, and they're aligned with the zodiac circle, they're going to instantly want to go, where's your zodiac chart, dude? We need to know where we stand here, because these forces are going to be filtered through the decans anyways. And, so it's an extra extension, for example. So it goes beyond, tarot readings here. You could actually do whole, jinn summoning readings, with the jinn themselves being present in the thing. And because you're using tarot cards, you can also ask, around that, because all the astrology stuff is interpreted with tarot cards. So you have basically we're creating a platform of revelation and instruction, because these guys, what they do is they give you perception, past, present, and future. That's a generic thing. They give you the understanding of events. They give you a sense of energy perception, and they give you deep insight into what's going on, along with the capacity to rectify it if it's going on wrongly. So that's where the crosses come in, because rather the crosses, they're not like crucifixion crosses. They're not like, it's the 90-degree angle and all of that. They're not destructive, and they're not oppressive. They are defining. They are the X marks the spot. It's like, here are the 4 vibrations that center on you. So with these 4 vibrations, it is easy to take the next step to start opening the soul heart, the fire, the inner temple. So it's a very mystical thing, but very advanced. And it's almost incomprehensibly advanced, in the sense that if you have something like Enochian magic, or the John D. Edward Kelly angelic conversations, with the crazy language with strange symbols, where people have gone crazy from it. Serious mental stress, hearing voices, insanity, possession. I've seen some YouTube videos where it was like, well, too many drugs or something, but no, they overdosed on the magic. And the stuff is apocalyptic. It's designed in such a way that you need to pay attention to every single detail, because a lot of these people don't realize that they're writing the letters backwards, for example. And then you wonder why things go wrong, And so they're doing things that are ritualistically based. But John Dee was a wizard. He was an alchemist, in the sense.
What do you mean by writing letters backwards? I don't understand what you mean
Oh,
by
I'm
that.
sorry. This system is based on like grids, 4 grids. Each of the 4 directions is like a grid, 13 squares by 12 squares or something like that. And then within that you have crosses, and he puts letters in there. But this guy puts the letters in English, but he designed the actual alphabet of these letters in his own little symbolism. So they're like these funnel shapes that curl around and stuff. So there's 21 letters in this phony alphabet that he made up. And they have different meanings, and he's using special techniques to call the letter a certain name, but the name of the letter is made by other letters, and you can interpret it through that. So it's like a spiral into meditating on the meaning of what the tone of each word means, and that makes it come alive as an entity.
Who did this? This is the YouTube guy that did this, or was it?
No. This is John Dee from the 1500s.
Okay, this is John Dee. Okay.
Yeah, right. Queen Elizabeth's astrologer.
Yeah.
And he was working with this other guy named Edward Kelly, who was basically some alchemist, but he was also like a con artist, you might say. But he was also psychically sensitive, so he would like channel. He would actually do real channeling, but he would add his own stuff. And channeling isn't like I'm out of it and I'm just talking, without having any control. He's actually talking like we are, but it's such a flow of information that he has to just keep saying it. So they worked out this system, both of them, through the channeling. It wasn't just, it was dictated. I don't think so. They worked it out. And he made these names, and they're all his own names. So it doesn't connect with anything with a long history. My point is that his system is not flawed per se, but it's biased according to the time and the place when it was downloaded, for example. And it was downloaded in Poland, in Czech, in Prague, but also near Krakow. He actually downloaded this. He was actually doing this stuff in Krakow. So a similar format I perceive the similar pattern with the Goetia, with the Lesser Key of Solomon, where it seemed like only the person was like really rushed to put it down, or only put half of the information down, or symbolize it, or he was experimenting and it never quite panned out. So he left this incomplete system that tried to create a jinn circle instead of just the watchtowers with square grids on them. And this jinn circle is collected to a Kabbalistic thing. So it's actually using real traditions, piggybacking real traditions, instead of creatively structuring it. So even though people were biased back then, the actual energy is more benign. And because people can't understand it and it's too complicated, it couldn't get corrupted. John Dee's stuff is like has symbolism of the destruction of the this and the wrath of God and crazy stuff like that. And other people have read it like, oh, it's opening the gates of hell, or you're opening the watchtowers, which means the demons are going to come through and they're turning on CERN the next day. Oh no, what's going to happen? So it's all this crazy stuff. And these vibes of transformation are too chaotic. And he used the system once during the some kind of naval battle in 1588 with the defeat of the Spanish Armada that sent the England and catapulted the English Empire and stuff. And that was it. After that, and his life went to hell afterwards. It just created such a weird backlash. Now, these jinn will not have that because the system is more constrained. It's not ambitious in the sense of creating, well, we're going to change the world here. You're out to make yourself a coherent, integral human being where you can actually pursue whatever you want, whether it's manifesting enlightenment, psychic empowerment, or even material wealth, but in a way where the human collective isn't going to mess with you. And in a way where you are encouraged by the jinn to go, because that's the clause. It's like, well, you're doing the great work here. This is alchemy. So you're going to become whole. You're not doing this to just mess around or for material gain only. That's a perk. The jinn are actually wanting to become part of you because you're a cool person, and they want you to stay that way. They want you to be creative. They want you to be. And Oribus is right there saying, look, we're going to keep you on the straight and narrow. Don't worry about it. You're not going to be tempted by all of these crazy energies because you're experiencing the chi and the prana of it too. You could easily go off and go, oh man, I got to get into town and start scoping out some chicks here, and the chicks will like you because he's like, look at that guy, man. He may be 80, but wow, he's better than the 20-year-old, and whatever, all the ages, everything falls away. And it doesn't matter, all the media stuff, all the conditioning of other people, they won't even see that around you. And it's like, well, what have you accomplished? Well, I'm not doing this system in this systematic way, but I'm following the same archetypes. And like I said, it is moving in the same direction. You don't have to do this system for that. However, if you are not somebody who is tied into some meditative procedure or contemplative thing, or if you're not like very spiritual, or if you're somebody who is into psychic stuff, but you're not a fanatical occultist. You're not into the occult Crowleyan type stuff, for example, all of these things, or chaos magic, or basically, okay, I wear my wizard's cap and my robe and I chart the circle and I do the thing and I chant the names and, oh yeah, and here it comes, and it doesn't work like that. Like you say, you do your own thing. The thing about ritual creation is you don't need to do ritual. You can creatively structure your own. You don't need somebody else to tell you how to do a ritual. It's basically an expression of your intent. And it would do good for anybody who's into occultism in the right way, so to speak, in a healthy manner, to practice creatively doing rituals, what's a ritual? So you're actually asking for something, you set up a certain context, you create symbolism around you, you're acting out your intention to a certain direction, to a certain target, and receiving the response of the target, affirming that, and there you go. Bob's your uncle, as they say. So your dreams are giving you this complicated 8 jinn level tapestry that hasn't accommodated all the jinn, for example, yet. So whatever you've been doing, emphasize it and go, for example, look, you're moving from north to south. Pursan doesn't have enough oomph. So his little stick broke, and the Japanese are mad at you now. And they're going to call the cops.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's so the thing is, it's like
the same Japanese that you tried to take their women, with the other guy.
let me just go ahead and say this and reaffirm this. It's like Oribus is kind of, there's some overbalance there. So like I need to bring up the South a little bit and match that out so I can get everything going the way it needs to go, right?
Exactly. Experience them at the. I mean, you seem to have connected with the North Great because you have that Oribus connection. And Oribus can actually help you coordinate with grimoire. He's like, don't worry, man. I'm the guy that coordinates. So you don't, when I told you, okay, first connect with the power source and bring it into the other one. That's true. Connect with the power source, but then go to Oribus again and say, okay, Oribus, how do we do this? And Oribus says, don't worry, I'm going and witness how you do this. Because when you ask Oribus to do it, he's the one who establishes it. He says, don't worry, I got the power. All you have to do is recognize what the power is and feel it and say, okay, this is it. But I also recognize Oribus. They can coexist. And so as they coexist, they're going to start sending tendrils to each other and blending. And that blending is paradoxically going to open what's between the two pillars in the gate, in the portal of the deckhand, which in this case is the highest intelligence of collective awareness. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be everybody. It means that your mind is going to be able to look at the human collective from a higher perspective. That's more energized, that's protected, basically. You're not going to be inundated by the collective. You are the representation of the highest ambition, aspiration, qualities of humanity, of the human collective. So if the human collective is crap, that crap part isn't going to be part of you. You'll be transmuting it and all of that and encountering it in other ways. But Oribus will keep all the stuff out that has nothing to do with who you are. And that will give you space essentially to start firing up, because then you can actually move. All of those four jinn, like I said, are going to naturally, especially if you use the divine name, the divine names, they will naturally listen to the divine names and go, okay, the divine names remind them of their purpose, you might say. It's the higher purpose. So they'll funnel it in, and there's no way that you can, shall we say, fall to the wayside or stumble on this thing. It can cause spiritual crises. The whole point of it, and all of these years I took to basically troubleshoot it, and the troubleshooting isn't occult mechanical. It isn't like I'm not an engineer of the occult forces. It's basically, I want to do this in a way that's honest, sincere, natural, healthy. And I don't want this crap. And I don't believe the crap about damnation, and I don't believe all of these things. Let's lift those up. What's going on? And I'm not some fool that's going to be taken over by spirits. That's all. It's been decades in the making. I've been dealing with this since the mid 90s. And there's been a lot to be able to transmute the experience. And as I've transmuted the experience, I've noticed that other people's experiences either diminished or basically were regular. But I haven't seen crazy miracles. There was a point where people were, saying these great things, real earthquakes happened, or a real flood happened, or something, gained a whole shitload of money. I found buried treasure for real, because in doing the rituals as they were stated verbatim, where some guy had to, he was a jeweler, so he could actually get all the gemstones and go buy a lion's pelt, and he used this lion's pelt in a linen robe that he made himself. The jinn appeared as nasty monsters, just like in the text. He followed it verbatim, so he manifested the thing exactly as canonically, stable as the religious doctrines would say. It's like, why would you want to do that?
I remember this guy. You told me about him before. That's why I'm kind of smiling right now. It's an interesting story, but why exactly? Why would you want to do that?
Because they take this. A lot of people on the cult forums and older generation and stuff. Oh, well, that's the grimoire. You follow it verbatim. Yeah, but it's not one of those things it's not a menu. You're supposed to actually recognize that there are holes in it, because if you know what occultism is and how alchemy works and what it really means, you got no problem finding where the holes are, and you got no problem recognizing that this seal here is actually telling you, like a map, to fill in the gap, or where they get all the names wrong. Well, the names aren't wrong. They're just actually Hebrew letters that make a whole different phrase that just sounds like the name. So if you put the Hebrew letters together, it'll tell you, focus on your lower elixir field and contemplate to generate the inner fire, something like that. There's actually phrases like that that can be extracted out of the Hebrew. Just like there's also like on the pentagram that they have to protect yourselves, but it actually represents an affirmation of your humanity. So maybe you don't need that pentagram, but what you might do is visualize your body within a pentagram. So like with your arms out and stuff like that, and that affirms I'm a human being here, buddies, and I have five-fold elements, and I'm using these in my organs and all of that, and it's all in this symbol, poof, geometry. Now the hexagram. The hexagram is actually a circle with two triangles and the Star of David thing, but that's actually a two-dimensional representation of six degrees of space, basically up, down, front, back, left, right. So, and these form double pyramids. So instead of when you flatten this out into two dimensions, it just turns into that hexagram thing. And it has all these little crosses, which is basically the seals of the directions that you do. So that's why I find it very much connected to the Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Shaping, where it seems to follow the exact same procedures. And the thing is that the seals, not the seals, but that work, whether it was translated 50 million times or some earlier version somebody might have had, defines everything. It's almost like an easy to understand yoga manual, where those basically had, you have to do this ritual, you have to do that ritual. This is just a simple 1, 2, 3, 10 steps. And after these 10 steps, you can charge this alphabet and make magic words and summon anything. And so this sphere is actually the true ring of Solomon. And that's how you command the spirits. You command the spirits by establishing an energetic presence of yourself, where your solar body, where your energy body, your mind, your etheric presence, your physical body, all of these things are actually felt. So the jinn are like, oh, cool, now we can connect. And because we can connect, and you're the human, you're the one who's physical, you're the one who's mind, you have a spirit, you got all these energy dynamics going. We're just the energy dynamics. We're just a part of that. And then you have the angels. We're just the spirit part. And then you have these other elemental beings. We're just this. From the spiritual to the physical, human beings cover the full spectrum. And this jinn transformation dynamic is part of that. You're changing the energetics of it. Well, anyways, that is the gist of it, and that is the gist of what you're doing, and you're just starting with it. So you're getting a tiny taste of what happens when you start coordinating these guys. This is pretty significant if you think about it, but somebody who's not well-versed in occultism and into it and have well-read, not just the regular books, but I'm talking the actual scholarship of what alchemy was and how it went and all of these things, and actually contemplated the fact of how all of these occult texts are, the traditions go back, way back, and they represent traditions of transformation. It's not just rituals or necromancy or listening to the dead and what they're going to say. That's part of it. But what people really wanted was to gain an empowerment that they discovered comes with altering their awareness permanently. And my thing is that the jinn are catalysts of transformation. So they're alchemical catalysts. So let's use the jinn as alchemical catalyst. They will love us for it. They don't get taxed. You don't have to do any kind of control. You don't have to make pacts or sign contracts. They want to do this. They're actually sentient forces of sorts, but not people. They're not individualized. Individuation comes with humanity. Spirits that are individualized go demonic. Okay? And so we are here when we encounter jinn and other spirits and fallen angels or whatever we do, ghosts, they get demonic because individuation creates a separation with a divine flow of life, with a Tao, you might say, as well as from the Christian angle. You can't open up to the flow. What?
So that's what. So basically, that's what the jinn get out of the whole thing. I mean, or at least one thing is they get to be individual as long as they're like teamed up with a cool individual, as opposed to like some asshole.
Exactly.
Okay.
They can. Yeah. They don't want to be individuals per se because that's not their thing. But at their level, They want to have a coherent egoic presence, which basically is I am this, and I'm moving through creation like this. And I'm doing this because this human has managed to align the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, all within a soul center. So the soul center is like the gravity that holds the person together. Otherwise, they split up. It's like it comes off as hatred, and it is hatred essentially because there's no source of life in it. So the jinn want to plug into the source of life, but they can't. Because if they do, they'll blend with it, lose their individuality. They'll lose all the qualities because they are partly with human spirits. They're not just pure. Humanity has evolved them. Humanity is the sacred presence of everything. And when Christ says, when Jesus says you can't go to the Father except through me, part of it has to deal with unless you're human, you can't go to the Father at all. And unless you're human who's evolved into the anointing crown stage, you can't open up to the greater spirit. And the greater spirit is actually coming out through your soul. So it has to come out through your soul first. As an individual, you connect with that, and it's no big deal. You're not like, oh, I'm Jesus and all that crap. You're basically a decent human being who is aware and can become more sensitive and isn't afraid of entering into subconscious realms of awareness, where human motives and the darkness of humanity and everything else can come. You have to be comfortable with that thing existing. Just like ancient people were comfortable with death. They were comfortable with dying all the time, with not comfortable like they enjoyed it, but it's part of life. And so they had rituals for it, and they actually dealt with it, loss or the hunt or having to kill animals or where some of them prayed for the soul of the animals so the other animals won't disappear. Oh, these humans are just killing us and we're going to hell, so we're not going to give ourselves over. The collective of the animal will become far more defensive than it used to be. But now there's even a different motive, and that motive is pure compassion. Humans have never, some have, we're talking individuals, yeah, but as a whole, there's a tendency that's moving the human collective to greater compassion. So it's not a battle. It's the battle and all of this crap is being framed by the ones on the other side, so to speak. Every definition that we know that's coming out is usually framed by what we are trying to overcome. So you got to redefine everything. And that's where the jinn help too. And we can't be afraid of people who are actually insane and using something like this. So, and I could never allow something like this to be made public coming from me. I don't know, can't control anybody else, but coming from me, I would have to define it in such a way that there's conditions. So you're not going to do it if you're going to be an a-hole. You're not going to do it if you're going to, abuse it, so to speak. And we're not summoning these powers because you're connecting. This connects you to the human collective, and that's me too, and you too, and everybody. So if you want to prosper, you're going to have to do it in a way that it may step on toes of psychopaths or abusers and stuff like that. That's different. But you're not going to be stepping on toes of innocence or genuine people, even people who may be flawed, but they're still aware that they value the soul and the heart. If you don't value the heart, if you're one of those people who think that's for wusses, something's wrong with you. And if something's wrong with you, then how are you going to open up to deeper levels of being and interaction with anything unless you're just going to get more of that. So whoever you are, when you open up to greater levels of being, you're going to amplify that. In real life, but that's really who you are, and you're just covering it up. That's going to just dominate. So you're going to become a nasty, greedy person. If you have like inklings of insecurity, you can become super greedy. Inklings of control, super lusty. Inklings of grab, you can become gluttonous. All of these things. But it's not the sins themselves that are the problem. It's the spirit of hatred that the jinn themselves are also helping you expel, at least from the energy body, because you're still responsible for the spirit, which the divine names take care of, though. So if you can structure the divine names along with the jinn, you've got your crown energy, you have your heart energy, and your lower energies all in alignment with the physical body. And the jinn know that. They know us. It's all aligned. Like you say, you have your familiars, and plus you have your own higher intelligence that these gateways, these deckhands are cosmically aligned as they always have been. It's nothing new. I'm not creating anything here. All I'm doing is just putting this piece with that piece because they fit. You will not get bored with this system. No.
Oh, hell no. This is like this is a main part. This is the main focus of my life. Everything else is happening because of it. So
Okay.
I'm hooked. This is
Okay,
fun.
that's cool. Okay, if it's fun, that's cool. It's fun for me. It's like, wow, there's more and more. It never ends.
Yeah.